The world above the clouds was a soft, fluffy, and endless place, a kingdom of quiet whispers and drifting white towers. This was the Sky Lanes, the home of all the raindrops before their big journey. And in this soft white world, there lived a very small, very round, and very, very scared raindrop named Droplet. Droplet was not like the other raindrops. While they giggled and tumbled in the air currents, practicing their dives, Droplet would cling to the very softest, fluffiest cloud he could find, his little transparent body trembling with a fear so big it felt larger than the sky itself. Droplet was afraid of heights. He would peek over the edge of his cloud, down at the vast, colourful world so far below. He could see the patchwork of green forests, the winding silver ribbons of rivers, and the tiny, sparkling dots that were lakes. The other raindrops said it was beautiful, but to Droplet it just looked terribly far away. His fear was a cold, heavy feeling inside him, making him want to stay safe and still in his fluffy cloud cradle forever. But high up in the Sky Lanes, there was a purpose, a beautiful and important purpose for every raindrop. The sun, warm and kind, would tell them stories of the world below. The sun spoke of little flowers with dusty throats, lifting their faces to the sky for a drink. The sun told of the soil, dry and cracked, waiting for a cool kiss of moisture to help the seeds within it sprout. The sun sang of the rivers that needed to be refilled so the fish could swim and the animals could drink. Every story filled the raindrops with a sense of excitement and duty. They were needed. They had to take the leap. The biggest and bravest of the raindrops would line up at the edge of the clouds when the gentle rumbling call of thunder signaled it was time. One by one, they would jump, flashing like falling diamonds, whooshing down on a journey of splashy delight. Droplet would watch them go, his heart, if a raindrop has a heart, beating a nervous little rhythm. He wanted to be brave. He wanted to help the pretty flowers and the thirsty soil. But the moment he thought about stepping off the cloud, his fear would wrap around him like a cold mist, holding him tightly in place. One day, the gentle sun's light grew a little warmer. A soft, deep, and mighty rumble echoed through the fluffy corridors of the Sky Lanes. It was thunder, and his rumble was not just a call, but an urgent message. The world below, he explained in his vibrating tone, had not seen rain for many days. The flowers were beginning to droop, their bright colours fading. The soil was becoming dry and dusty. The river was growing shallow. The need was greater than it had ever been. Every single raindrop was required for a grand watering. The other raindrops buzzed with purpose, gathering at the cloud's edge, ready to become a great, nourishing shower. Droplet felt a pull, a deep desire to help. He shuffled a little closer to the edge, his trembling making the tiny cloud puff beneath him shiver. He looked down. The world seemed even farther away than before. The fear turned into an icy knot in his middle. He couldn't do it. He just couldn't. As the first brave raindrops leaped with joyful shouts, Droplet turned and scooted back, hiding deep within a particularly fluffy and safe-looking cloud, feeling very small and very alone. He thought his hiding spot was perfect, but a gentle wind, who was a friend to all, whispered through his cloud and found him. The wind did not blow him away or tell him to not be scared. Instead, the wind whispered a story. It whispered of the first raindrop ever to fall, who was also very frightened. It whispered that courage was not a feeling that came before the jump, but a choice that was made during it. The wind's whisper was soft and soothing, and it made Droplet feel a tiny, tiny bit less alone. But still the fear was there. Then a new feeling joined the fear. It was a feeling of sadness for the drooping flowers he had heard about. He pictured a little yellow sunflower, its head hanging low, waiting for a drink that never came. He thought of the tiny seeds in the dark earth, waiting for a drop of water to wake them up so they could see the sun. His desire to help them was growing, a warm, bright feeling that started to push against the cold, heavy fear. He was still terrified, but now he was also thinking of others. Can you think of a time you were scared but wanted to help someone? That's exactly how Droplet felt. This was his first challenge, the challenge of the heart. It was not a challenge of action, but of feeling. Droplet had to hold two big feelings at once, his giant fear of falling and his growing wish to help the world below. He huddled in his cloud, feeling this big, confusing battle inside himself. The cold fear said stay, but the warm wish said go. He had to decide which feeling was more important. And thinking of that thirsty little seed, he felt the warm wish grow just a little bit brighter, and the cold fear melt, just a tiny, tiny drop. Chomp. Encouraged by this warm feeling, Droplet crept back to the edge of his cloud. The wind gently nudged him toward a long, wispy bridge of cloud that connected to the next cloud over. This was the second challenge, the challenge of the first step. The cloud bridge was soft and looked safe, but it was very, very high up. To cross it, he would have to leave his safe, fluffy hiding spot and trust that the cloud would hold him. His trembling started again. What if he slipped? What if the wind blew too hard? He looked at the path ahead. It wasn't a jump, not yet. It was just a step. Then another, then another. He didn't have to think about the big, scary leap. He just had to think about one small, tiny step. Taking a deep breath of the thin, cool air, Droplet put one foot, if a raindrop has a foot, onto the cloud bridge. It felt firm yet soft. He took another step, and another. He was moving. He was crossing the high-up bridge. He wasn't looking down at the faraway world. He was just looking at the next step in front of him. With each step, his warm feeling of bravery grew a little bigger. He was doing it. He was facing his fear, one small step at a time. Can you take small, brave steps like Droplet? He made it across the bridge, his little body shimmering with effort and a new, fizzy feeling that was almost like excitement. But his journey was not over. The main leap was still ahead. He had reached the launch cloud, where the bravest raindrops gathered before their fall. From here, the world below looked clearer, but also more terrifying. He could see the brown, parched fields now. He could see the flowers, their petals wilted. The need was real, and it was right there in front of him. This was the third and final challenge, the challenge of the leap. This was the moment. Other raindrops were jumping all around him, whooping with delight as they began their important journey. Droplet stood at the very edge. The wind rushed up around him. The cold fear came back in a powerful wave, telling him to retreat, to find another cloud to hide in. He felt frozen. He couldn't move forward, and he couldn't move back. He closed his eyes, trembling terribly. He thought of the sun's stories. He thought of the wind's whisper. He thought of the thirsty soil and the sleepy seed. His warm wish to help grew so big and so bright that it finally pushed through the cold fear. Courage, he realized, was not the absence of his fear. He was still absolutely terrified. Courage was feeling that fear, that cold, heavy, trembling fear, and choosing to listen to the warm, bright wish instead. With a deep breath that made his whole round body shimmer, Droplet made a choice. He chose the wish. He chose to help. And with that choice, he leaned forward and stepped off the cloud. For a single heart-stopping moment, he was falling. The wind rushed past him with a mighty roar. The world rushed up to meet him. His fear screamed inside him. But then something amazing happened. The falling turned into floating. The roaring wind turned into a song, a beautiful whistling tune that played just for him. He wasn't crashing, he was dancing. He was twirling and spinning, gliding and soaring on the air currents. He looked around and saw thousands of other raindrops, all dancing and falling alongside him, a glorious, sparkling shower. He wasn't alone. He was part of something big and beautiful and important. The fear was gone, completely washed away by the incredible joy of the fall. He had done it. He had been afraid, but he had been brave anyway. He had triumphed over his fear by choosing to be kind and helpful. He laughed, a sound like a tiny happy chime as he twirled through the air. Down below, the dry earth sensed the coming shower. The flowers perked up just a little. The dusty soil seemed to sigh in anticipation. Droplet fell and fell, his dance a celebration of his incredible bravery. He landed not with a crash, but with a soft, perfect plip right on the brow of a drooping rose. The cool water soaked into the flower, which instantly lifted its head, its red petals becoming bright and velvety once more. From there, he dripped down onto the thirsty soil, sinking deep down to where a little seed was sleeping. He gave the seed a drink, And the seed, feeling the cool, brave water, decided it was time to wake up and grow. The rain shower was a magnificent success. The world was watered. The rivers were fuller. The flowers were brighter. And one little raindrop had learned the biggest lesson of all. He had learned that true courage is not about not being scared. It is about having a reason to be brave that is bigger than your fear. It is about listening to your kind, helpful heart, even when your scared knees are shaking. High up in the sky lanes, the sun shone a little warmer, proud of every raindrop, but especially proud of one very small, very round, and now incredibly courageous raindrop who had discovered that the most wonderful adventures always begin just on the other side of a brave choice. What shall we learn about in our next adventure? Will we learn about kindness? Or maybe how to be a good friend? Join us next time to find out. Moral: courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it through the choice to do what is right and helpful.